Now you see, I've traveled many times to the United States in my short life, but every single one of those times has been with an adult, a family member. Now, this time, I was going alone. And now, as the brave kid that I once was, I had no worries. I mean, as long as I get a sweet old summer vacation, I don't really care. So on my way, I was to travel alone for the first time as a very, very tiny child. They gave me a small bag where they would put my passports and my plane tickets, and they will hang it on my neck. And if there's one thing I remember is that they told me, do not take this off. And as the responsible kid I am, I never took it off. So there I was at the very back. I was one of the first passengers to board the plane. I remember you could take a picture with the pilot, but I didn't have any phones, so I never took it. But that's beside the point. My journey was composed by 2 flights, one from my country to Miami, and the second one from Miami to Washington, D.C. So we had the first flight and everything's fine, everything's okay. And then we arrived at Miami. Something I vividly remember was that the child waiting room was really nice actually. There were vending machines and there was TV and they were playing cartoons. It was just a good time. But what was not a good time was what was about to happen. So they pulled me aside from the officers and they started asking me some questions. And I, as a nervous little 8-year-old, was kind of freaking out. Luckily, after some back and forth, the officer let me go. So I guess stage 1 of the mission was completed. Now it was time to board my second plane. And I remember that the flight attendant went and asked me, would you like something to eat? And then proceeded to list literally every single thing I could have. And I was just so confused because at the time I couldn't speak English that well. And that flight attendant, oh my gosh, she spoke fast. So the flight attendant kind of sounded like this. Oh, my sweet little child, would you like potatoes and Pringles? So I decided to order the only thing I could understand from that huge list she gave me. Some marvelous Pringles, which gave me some company throughout the long, lonely flight. By the way, flight attendants aren't constantly checking on you, at least where I was. The flight attendant will maybe pass like once or twice in the flight. And there was a little button you could press that was on top of your seat, but I was too short to press the button. And there were certain times where you couldn't take your seatbelt off. So how were you expecting me to press that button? So by the end of the flight, they finally asked me, are you cold? And I was literally freezing. So they gave me a nice blanket and off I was to go. Except the children flying solo are the last to get off the plane. So I had to wait there very impatiently. By this time, it was already dark outside. So I was very, very tired. So finally, the flight attendants got me off that plane and guided me to where I would be picked up. Needless to say, I had a lot of fun that trip. It was a summer trip and we were all happy and there was vacations. It was nice. But I have to admit that flying alone was a bit nerve-wracking. I mean, to say the least.